Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today is going to be a little different than usual. As you may know, normally on Wednesdays I do Overwatch Weekly videos where I do a rundown of the Overwatch news for the past week. Recently I've been kind of thinking about ways to change Overwatch Weekly, ways to make it a little more interesting and better. And ultimately, I've just found that the best option for right now is just to suspend making it for the time being, just focus on making other things instead for now. And that is going to start today, where I'm just going to make a video more broad, or I guess not more broad, more general, just talking about one topic right now, and we'll see what happens, and I'll see how videos like this feel going forward. But I wanted to talk today about the most recent patch notes, because they are somewhat interesting. There's some interesting stuff changing to competitive play, as well as just to the hero changes. These hero changes are the same ones that were on the experimental card recently, so changes to Ashe, Brig, Diva, and Junkrat. I'll get more into those in a second. I want to start with these changes to competitive, because there's two major changes. The first one is that Open Queue was added to competitive play, so starting with Season 23, competitive play will support both Role Queue and Open Queue. These will be separate queues, so you won't see Role Queue teams playing against Open Queue teams. Open Queue will have its own SR and leaderboard separate from the role-specific Role Queue SRs and leaderboards. This is something we knew about. Jeff talked about it in a dev update a couple months ago now, a month ago now. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was. But the other thing that's interesting is the adjustments to seasonal placements for high SR players, which I think is very interesting. Beginning with Season 23, the maximum skill rating, SR, earned from a player who completes each season's placements, that is something that they may or may not have left out, has been capped at 3,900 SR. Players are still matched with other players of similar skill, as we want to keep matches as fair and fun as possible. As each player participates in more games during the current season, the SR will slowly rise to reach a value that fully reflects their current skill. This change is intended to address many of the issues that SR Decay tried to fix, but in a more positive manner that rewards staying active and playing more games, instead of penalizing players for not playing enough. Achieving a very high SR at the end of a season can no longer be achieved by completing a mere 5 placement matches. This does mean you may see larger SR differences between all the players in a very high SR match than in previous seasons, as two similar and highly skilled players might have different SRs based on how many games they've played during the season. I like these changes. I'm not 3,900 SR or higher, so that doesn't really affect me, but it's an interesting change. I've seen a lot of positive feedback from the community on that one, so I think it's a good change there. The big thing is the addition of Open Queue. I personally love Role Queue more than I like Open Queue. I'm not an Open Queue fan, but what I like about Open Queue is that people who want to play DPS or want to play goats or want to play weird compositions can do that in Open Queue, and it's a separate queue, and it keeps Role Queue alive and well in the competitive format as well. So I like this. I think it's a good change. I've had the same feeling on it ever since it happened. I think it's going to make the games better. I think it should decrease some queue times. I feel like most DPS players who just want to play DPS and don't want the long queue times are going to go to Open Queue, because they know they can just go and lock a DPS and play the DPS they want. But for me, as someone who plays mostly tank and support and just likes to have 2-2-2 games, I love that. I still love Role Queue. So good change there. And the change to the SR, another good change that I think will make things better to avoid decay, which I think is a good change. But let's talk about these hero updates, because that's what I want to focus mostly on in this video. And I've talked about these in the past, and when I talked about them in Overwatch Weekly, when I talked about these patch notes. But let's jump into the hero updates. I'll end with Brig, because I want to focus most of my time on Brig. So I want to quickly run through the other ones. For Ashe, her dynamite cooldown was increased from 10 seconds to 12 seconds. With the dev comment on this one saying, with recent improvements to Ashe's weapon, her overall damage output has increased significantly. Toning dynamite down will lower her overall damage while keeping her damage output focused on her rifle. I like this change because I would notice that the dynamite would basically, you'd use it and then you'd instantly get it back pretty quickly. it wasn't really a short cooldown, because it was the type of thing where you threw it, you detonated it, the fire damage would happen, and then it ended, and then you basically had a dynamite up again, and you could just really, really, really easily spam it. This is now a little less spammable, which I think is good. So this is a change I really like. I've been playing a ton of Ashe recently. She's one of my new favorite heroes to play, so this is a good change. Diva's changes were, I think, pretty good. The first one is that Diva's fusion cannon's movement penalty is reduced from 50% to 40%, so she will move slightly faster now than she used to when she is firing her weapon. Her defense matrix cooldown was reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. That was a change that they'd already made in the past. They went from 2 to 1 second, and then they went up to 1.5. Now they're back down to 1. And then the micro missiles activation delay was reduced from 0.5 to 0.25. And this just says these buffs are aimed at making Diva feel more fluid and responsive to play, which I agree with. The micro missiles activation delay and the fusion cannon movement penalty aren't as significant, I think, as the defense matrix cooldown reduction. The defense matrix cooldown reduction is a pretty major buff. I mean, it's only half a second, but that's still pretty noticeable. And it means you can be much more quick and responsive with using your defense matrix. Eating ults is not as difficult anymore. So these are good. These are changes that make Diva better. I'm curious to see if they'll stick around. The defense matrix one is the one that's weird to me, because they had it at 1 second and then bumped it up and are bumping it back down. I don't know if it's they don't think Diva's that good to play, even though I think Diva is still one of the best tanks to play right now. She's still getting tons and tons and tons of playtime. It's an interesting change, or an interesting set of changes. I don't really understand what led them to make these changes, but I'm not going to complain. I do like playing Diva. For Junkrat, the changes are just quality of life changes. Concussion mine trigger delay was reduced from 0.156 to 0.1 seconds, and the Riptire time to take control of Junkrat post detonation has been reduced from 1.5 to 0.9 seconds. As they say here, these are a couple quality of life changes for Junkrat. This makes it possible to do some concussion mine jumps that were no longer possible after a previous increase to its projectile speed. So now you can do the concussion mine stuff to Junkrat again. But the hero I want to talk the most about is Brigitte, because I have talked a lot about Brigitte in the past. I play a lot of Brigitte. I play a lot of support. That's my preferred role. But these Brig changes are really interesting. You should be seeing this gameplay in the background of Brig. This game, the one on Nepal, was awful. It was really, really bad. And I don't necessarily think it was just because of Brig. You know, I was playing Brig for the most part. Well, the entire time, actually, not for the most part. I was playing Brig the entire time. But it didn't feel good that game. Now, I think that was more so on the tanks. The tank line wasn't as fluid, and we were getting kind of rolled over in the DPS as well. But I didn't really think Brig felt all that great. I played some other games with her, and I thought she felt better. But I have some problems with these Brig changes. So I will go over what happened with Brig real quick. So the first one is it no longer grants an additional armor health pool. None. Not a single one. So it used to be if you threw an armor pack and someone had max health, it would provide a little extra armor depending on how much health they had before you gave it to them. If you stacked all three of them, you could give an additional, I believe, 150, and they would, gain 150, which is pretty good, all things considered. So they take that away because it's pretty strong, and understandably so. So they just, you can't stack the armor anymore. Her barrier shield maximum health was increased from 200 to 250. So you have a little bit more barrier health, but it also has a regeneration rate decrease from 100 per second to 85 health per second. And the cooldown when destroyed was increased from 3 seconds to 5 seconds. The dev comments on this are that granting additional maximum health is a powerful ability and has proven too effective when combined with the additional healing of Repair Pack. Brigitte's barrier will now provide more protection up front, enabling her to withstand more directed fire, but will also have a longer downtime if it's destroyed. Now, I don't have as much of a problem with these barrier changes. I don't think they're that big of a deal. I think the regeneration rate and the cooldown are a little frustrating. It's just something I'll have to get used to. I mean, there was really only one moment when I really felt the barrier health increase. I tried to play a little too aggressive. Tried to go back in before my barrier was back, and I died. The maximum health increase is good. It's not that much of a huge difference from 200 to 250. It's still a pretty weak barrier, all things considered. But the idea is they don't want Brig to be kind of, sitting behind shield all the time. They want you to have to actually be more smart about what you're doing. The thing that I think is an interesting change, and the one that I'm a little torn on, is the loss of the ability to grant an additional armor health pool. I don't think that making it so you can't stack 150 armor onto somebody, I don't think taking that away was a bad idea. I am all in on them saying, hey, Brigitte being able to put 150 armor onto a hero is too strong, especially when you put that on a hero like Tracer or Genji, where they can just dive into your backline. You're taking a Tracer, you're doubling her health, and she's just diving into your backline. You can't do anything to her because she's now tanky, and it was very, very strong. But it feels like now Brig's repair pack is kind of bad. It's not the worst healing ability, and I don't think that was ever really, a weak ability to begin with. But I don't think her strength ever really came from the repair pack. Being able to stack 150 armor was pretty strong, but most of your healing is going to come from your Inspire anyway. So for me, it just feels a little bit odd to take away the entirety of the additional armor pool. They went from 150 to 0. They could have gone from 150 to 50, 150 to 75, 150 to 25. They could have made it where you can't stack 3 repair packs onto somebody. And the idea might be, well, what's the penalty if you then can just, say, okay, well, I can't put 150 onto one hero, but I can put 50 onto 3. And then, that's pretty strong in and of itself. Sure, but I don't think that 50 armor on its own and then having your repair pack on cooldown because you just put 150 armor across 3 different heroes is as strong as putting 150 armor onto one hero and then just having that hero just dive their backline and hoping that, hey, we get a kill with this. It's a very odd change, in my opinion. I understand why they changed it. I don't fully agree with the complete way that they've done it. I don't remember exactly what her healing is through Inspire. I have to double check that. I'm going to look it up right now. Because I think that there is a ton of stuff that Brig does really, really well, and there's some stuff that Brig does not as well. But right now, to me, this just feels like they're saying, okay, we want Brig's one job now to be stopping backliners, right? Stop the Genjis, stop the Tracers, stop the Sombras. That's all we want her to do at this point in time. And I don't know how I feel about that. Her Inspire is 21.667 healing per second for allies and 10.833 per second for herself. I think that's more of what I would like to see them tweak rather than her armor packs or repair packs, because I think that Inspire is really where most of her healing comes from. And I've heard some people say, like, just get rid of Inspire. If you got rid of Inspire, Brigitte would be useless. Like, there would be absolutely no reason to ever play her, which I know is what a lot of people want. People just want Brig gone from the game. I think that's not true. I think that having Inspire is a perfectly fine ability as long as you keep it in a good place. But I think that just removing the entirety of her our repair pack's ability makes repair packs kind of bad because you gotta, you're obviously throwing them at your teammates. And obviously, Brig is never meant to be a hero who can heal from your backline, right? Brigitte's usefulness is being help frontline, helping fight, because that's where she is meant to be playing. She's not really meant to be like Ana sitting in the back, pumping in health from a distance. That isn't really Brigitte's strength. And I guess that's what they're trying to double down on, is they're trying to say we don't want Brig to be the hero who can sit in the back and just pump in armor on people, while then also just stopping people if they try to attack you from the back. And if their goal is to say we want her to be frontline, well then I guess this is the best change you can make, because it makes it where that is the best thing to do. But I'm curious to see how this impacts higher level play. I'm curious especially to see how it impacts heroes like Echo and Tracer, because Tracer has been very, very, very prominent in the Overwatch League, especially when Brig is in, and also when Brig is out. We've seen her a lot. But Brig has been able to enable Tracer by stacking these repair packs, and then you just let your Tracer just go in and attack, and it's very effective. I worry that the inability to kind of support and assist Tracers and Echoes and even Sombras is going to lead to a bit of a less of a dive composition, probably more double shield compositions, more brawly compositions. I don't know if that is going to happen. That's where my mind is right now. Meta has surprised me numerous times, but this hurts Tracer's play in the Overwatch League, because she was very, very good, especially when you could armor her up and send her in. And the same goes for Echo, same goes for Genji. That's what was really good for those heroes, is you could just pump them in with some healing or with some armor, and they were just going to dive your backline and ruin your entire team. So it's an interesting change. I'm curious to see how the lack of armor affects Brig and affects the meta. I'm hoping, personally, that we get some more changes to some of the dive heroes that makes them just better in general, because we see a lot of dive in the Overwatch League, but at the end of the day, I still think the default composition, the composition that's going to work the best in many cases, is if you're running double shield. We'll see what happens. Obviously, when these changes go through into the Overwatch League, they're not going to be in effect until the final monthly tournament, the August one. So we'll see what happens then. But right now, I'm not crazy about these changes to Brigitte. And maybe it's just because I like Brigitte and I like being able to play her, and I feel like her utility has gone down significantly. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. But that's all I have to say about this. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about the changes to Brig and the changes to any of the heroes, the comp changes, whatever. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. But that is all I have for you today. If you enjoy, consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. And let me know how you feel about this new format that I'm going to try to focus more on. That is everything, though. Hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.